put out the first version of the Aerostorms build, it was known that Heartseeker plus Victimize was a strong combination. In the month and change since then, it has completely taken over the world of rogues in Diablo 4. It is hard meta, and it's incredibly strong. But on this channel, we're trying to do things off meta and for fun. There's enough resources out there to show you the strongest way to play the game. I'm trying to find a fairly strong way to have a lot of fun. So that's what v.2 of the Aerostorms build is designed to do. More specifically, we wanted to get away from the normal Heartseeker build, and so we had to drop Victimize entirely, and this is what it looks like. Now, before we get into how this was achieved, I want to give a huge shout out to Bean Streams on Twitch. It's Bean Streams and then 2 underscores. Go give her a follow and check out the channel. As I moved on from this build and went around, my way of bricking items for future ideas, she decided to stick with it and try to do a version of it that didn't use Victimize. A lot of people didn't seem to believe that the Aerostorms themselves were doing any damage. They thought it was just Victimize procs. It wasn't true then, and it's not true now. Now, granted, Victimize is, of course, the stronger setup. If you're just interested in pushing deep pits, you're better off going with the established Victimize build. But if you're like me and you find other content in the game to still be enjoyable despite the existence of the pit, this is a different and fun way to go about it. And the new setup involves close quarters combat and a little bit of a different skill rotation where we dash in, caltrops out, and still use our smoke grenades, and it winds up looking something like this. And this is all just Aerostorm damage, and this should be much stronger. You'll see when I get into my gear, I don't have much damage to crowd control to boost my close quarters combat. That's because my gear is terrible. All right, it is objectively really bad for this setup. Beans was much stronger. She spent a little time optimizing it. I have not. I'm still using the same gear from the first video, so just keep in mind that these numbers get much larger. You'll see Aerostorm takes upwards of 5, 6, 700,000 at a time. All right. So let's talk about the new setup that Bean worked out as she went on her way. Now, I don't even have all the right gear here, so I'm going to give you a few caveats. The build planner outlines them better than what you're going to see now, but I just want to give you the general idea, right? So we're using Godslayer. This just turned out to be a huge damage boost. There were definitely some comments in the first video too that asked about this. It was a great idea. I love when people take these builds and try to make them better. So by all means, keep the ideas flowing. But we're going to use Godslayer now for this variant. Now, I'm using Soulbrand, and that's because I don't have Temerity. What you'll see in the actual build planner is that being set up Temerity and kept Umbrus here. We're using Temerity for high barrier uptime to give us Conceited, and that's just a nice general damage boost for us. Because I didn't have Temerity and didn't want to take the time to farm one, to be honest with you, I just went with Soulbrand. It solves the problem temporarily, but Umbrus here and Temerity here is definitely the better setup. I just swapped them. We're still using Explosive Verve on the gloves. We want our grenade skills to count as trap skills, and that way whenever we chuck our grenade at someone, they get a Paragon boost when we hit enemies affected by trap skills. It's good for us. Concussive strikes on the boots. This is a great way to get more damage out of this setup. This is another thing that I saw recommended in a few comments, and it definitely turns out to just be worth it. We have enough unstoppable in the build. We weren't really using Ghostwalker as much as, it wasn't worth an aspect slot in comparison to what we get from concussive strike, so we made that switch. We're still keeping the core concept of trying to make these Aerostorms strong, so we still run Vengeful on the two-hander, and we still run Aerostorms on the amulet. These are also not max versions of these aspects, just want to point that out. Again, there's a lot of room to the upside to make this stronger. I showed you Conceited already, and we're still using Inner Calm. It's a good general damage multiplier. Don't forget, this got reworked. It used to just give you a boost when you stood still. Now it gives you 10x increased damage just no matter what, and then it triples after you stand still for 3 seconds. If you stand still, you'll get the bonus, but either way, it's a flat 10%. When we're using effects like Aerostorms, a lot of aspects just don't apply. Like, we can't get things that boost skill damage as reasonably because they're an effect and not a skill. and that's what we're scaling. We only have 1 point in Heartseeker. We're not looking to scale Heartseeker damage at all. It's just a catalyst to get the Aerostorms going. And we still use Moonrise and Rapid because we want to spam Heartseeker as fast as we can. We also still look to have Heartseeker cast twice. And the reason for that is because we just want these lucky hits and Aerostorms as often as we can get them. Now, we're still using Inner Sight, same reasons as outlined before, right? First of all, it's the only one that applies to us, but it gives us good crit chance. It also gives us moments of 100% dodge from Leyrana's Instinct. It's still our best bet, so we're sticking with that. On the actual skill tree, there's been a few changes. We're still just 1 out of 1 into Heartseeker. We're still taking the Ricochet to try to get as many of them off as we can. We still want 3 out of 3 in Stutter Step and Sturdy. We've added in Caltrops, and we're taking the cold damage and chills option, and that's so that we can get these boosts down here, Frigid Finesse and Chilling Weight. We're still 3 out of 3 in Weapon Mastery. We're still taking Shadow Step and Dash. We've still got our Smoke Grenade. We did take 2 points out to accommodate the tree, so, the cooldown's not quite where it was, but again, it's on 11.18 second cooldown, and the daze duration is 9.45 seconds. This is pretty much perma-daze, and you can make it better, too, with tempering, so, if you don't mind the grind of hopefully not breaking everything out, you can definitely get this up to, 100% uptime. We're still maxing Dark Shroud. We want the DR, and we're getting it from Umbrus. It's constant. We're always full. Never a problem. A lot of the passives stay the same. And in this version, we're still taking Shadow Clone. I said it before. I'll say it again. It's totally fine to take Rain of Arrows if you just want the aesthetic of constant arrow rain, which is a large part of what we're building around. And then close quarters combat. So again, Victimize is stronger with Heartseeker. I'm not claiming that it isn't, but we wanted to get away from Victimize because that's what every build does, and it's just become so apparent at this point that we wanted something different. I am not well equipped to use close quarters combat, right? I only have a 14x on the damage boost because, again, this is the same gear from last time where I was looking at things like vulnerable damage instead of damage to crowd control, which is actually what you want in this variant if you just want to maximize your Aerostorms. This is also why we now do the dash in Caltrops out. We want to get these buffs up, and so we had to change the playstyle a little bit, and that was all in an attempt to just not use Victimize and do something a little bit different, a little off meta and fun. The Paragon board is largely the same as the first one. We're using the same nodes and the same glyphs. Some of the changes, though, that Beam did make were some board rotations and other things to try to get more max life nodes as she was looking to run in the pit. Obviously, we've all learned by this point that max life is enormous. Of course, you need your armor, your resists, your DRs everywhere you can get them, but max life turns out to be the only one that's infinitely scalable. And so she worked the Paragon around a little bit to try to get more max life nodes. Obviously, I haven't set this up. My max life is terrible right now because, again, I don't have the gear. I don't have GA fixes for max life. She did, and she got up to something like, I think around 40,000 max life. I'm not 100% sure. Stop in and ask her where she got to. It's obviously not a barbarian level of life, but it never will be. Just barbs have access to so much stuff to do that. And those are the basic changes. Now, I did show her clearing a pit 54. There was plenty of time left, and in that full run, she actually spent quite a bit of time just talking to her chat, and so it would have gone a little bit faster. I'm definitely sure the damage is here to clear pit 61 and get all the masterwork materials. You will very likely cap out somewhere around there unless you can find good improvements to the damage. But again, deep pit push, if that's what you want to do, I highly recommend you just follow a meta build. This is for someone who wants to destroy 99% of the content in the game, isn't overwhelmingly concerned with pinnacle endgame content, does want to be able to put up a fight in there, but really just wants to have fun and have their build function the way they wish it would function, and arrow storms just hailing down from the sky. So this is it. This is V2. It's a slightly different playstyle, so I wouldn't even think of it necessarily as an update to the old build so much as a different variant, because if what you liked about the first version was never having to get in close, you can still spam, but it is worth getting in close to proc your buffs. So that's it. I appreciate everyone's patience while we got this together. Go show love to Bean Streams on Twitch. Her profile link is linked in the description of this video. And yeah, I'll catch you all in the next one.